All right, this is just going to be a quick little tutorial about making a scatter plot in Google Sheets. What we're going to do here is plot this particular column of data is going to be on our x-axis, and then this will be a set of data that, for instance, we want to plot on the vertical axis against this data set, and then we're actually going to put a second data set on the same graph. So they'll have like a common set of x data, and so we're going to plot data set 1 against this x data, and we're going to plot data set 2 against it as well on the same graph. What we're going to do is, the way to kick this off is, I know that I've got sort of 3 sets of data, so I'm actually just going to highlight 3 columns, and what I'm going to do is go Insert Chart. And what we're going to do is make a scatter chart. So the chart type, you would fix it here, and if it hadn't been selected for us, we would scroll down to where it says scatter plot, and so we'd pick that. Now what you notice, and I purposefully kind of scrambled the orders of these things, if you look at where it says x-axis, right now it has A3 through A4, and that is not, in fact, what we want to have on the x-axis. You can tell what we want on the x-axis is in column B, and so we need to change it. And so what you can do is you can click on these, you can click on this data set and then hit this little grid that's going to kind of let you refer back to the spreadsheet, and you see it says A3 to A4. Well, I don't want A3 to A4. In fact, I want B3 down through, I think I went through B8. And so I'm going to change this. So now it's going to be B3 to B8. B8. And then we hit OK. And I'm going to fix these other 2 as well. So one series, my first set of data on the y-axis, in your y-axis data, they call it series in Google Sheets. In that, it currently says B3 to B4, but that's not what we want, because as you notice, that is our x data. And what we want is data set 1 on the y-axis. We want that to be B3 A3 to A7. So we got to change that. So I'm going to click that, click this little box, and we're going to go from A3 to A7. So we're actually purposefully selecting that bit of data. Hit OK. And then the last one is actually correct. Oh, it's still only C3 to C4, so I have to update that as well. So I'm going to hit the sheet. And what it's going to do again is allow us to choose, say, C3 to C7. I'll hit OK. So now I should have the data that I want. So let's kind of take a look at our chart and see what we've built. I'm going to zoom this out just a little bit. Zoom, I'm at 200%, so we'll make it a little bit more zoomed out. There we go. Drag this down, and so what you notice is our x data is supposed to be plotting everything against 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and you notice that we've successfully done that. Your y axis data set is supposed to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so it's kind of growing linearly. So that's our blue data here, and so that seems to have worked. And then our other set of data set 2, is actually growing exponentially, as it turns out, like quadratically, and so you get this red set of data that's kind of curving up. So it looks like I've gotten what I wanted. The title here is misleading, so we need to edit that. So we're going to edit the chart. And so now what we're going to do is we're at a stage where we can customize it. So it says chart and axis titles, and so the global overall title, we want y set 1 and y set 2 versus x data set. So I'm going to call it that. So we've modified I'll just call it y data set 1 and y data set 2. So we'll hit enter. So now the title makes some sense. You notice here where it says chart title, it's a drop down. So I'm going to go to the horizontal axis title. And of course, we didn't want our x-axis data on y-axis data on this axis. So I'm just going to change the title. So this is our x-axis data. And then on the y-axis, the vertical axis, we've got our y-axis data. All right. And so you notice we've got these two data sets. Now this red data set is not linear; it's growing exponentially. What I'm going to do though is for the data set that does grow linearly. So another really important skill, I guess. Let me move this chart over. Actually, what I'm going to do is put it on another sheet. So if you click these three buttons here, these three dots, it brings up some options for you. You can either edit the chart, which I'm going to do in a moment, but you can also move it to its own spreadsheet. So I just did that. So now I can toggle back and forth between like the raw data, which is on what they call the sheet. So this is the raw data, and then this is the graph of that raw data. So I can toggle back and forth between the two. What I'm going to do, an important skill with data that's linear. So you happen to notice that this y-axis data is growing linearly as the x-axis data grows. What I'm going to do then is put a line of best fit through this through my y-axis data here. And so what I want to do is I want to edit that little data series. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the chart. And we'll go to customize, and it says here series, so I get to edit the data series, and so if I go to that, it says series, and I'm going to pick the first set of data series 1, which is the blue data here. And what I want to do is add a line of best fit. And so if you scroll down, you see there's some options, and one option says trend line. And so I'm going to enable that. I'm going to click a trend line, and you see it's actually slapped a line in there. And what's often important is when you're making doing a line of best fit is to actually show the equation of that line. And so what I'm going to do is where there's this option that says label, I'm going to click use equation. And you notice here it says 0.4x plus 0. Well, that's your mx plus b. So your slope of this line of best fit is 0.4. And then the y-intercept of this line of best fit happens to be 0. And so another thing that's often you can do to show how good your line is you can click the show r squared feature. And it says r squared equals 1. Well, that's because that was a perfectly linear, relationship. Just to see how that plays out, by the way, with data that's clearly not linear, the red data set, if I go back up to data series 2, which is my red data set, and now I can format that data series. Let me enable a trend line, which you notice it's a horrible fit because that data was not linear. And so that's how you would put that a line of best fit in for a second set of data. But of course, it's a terrible fit because it's quadratic data.